He didn't look like a monster. He didn't hide in shadows or stalk alleyways in silence. He went to work. He got married. He lived among thousands of ordinary people. And at night, he hunted them. This is the story of Peter Kürten, the man history would come to know as the Vampire of Düsseldorf.
I have no remorse. As to whether recollection of my deeds makes me feel ashamed, I will tell you. I rather enjoy it.
Peter Kürten was born in 1883 in Germany, into a home defined by poverty, violence, and fear. His father was an alcoholic butcher. The household was loud, unstable, and brutal.
I never loved my father, but I always feared him. I got to know my father as a monster from an early age.
Violence wasn't something Peter encountered later in life. It was the background noise of his childhood. As a boy, he witnessed abuse regularly. Blood wasn't shocking. And very early on, something in Peter responded to it.
He befriended a local dog catcher that lived in his building. Seeing the man torture the dogs and cats he captured sparked something in Peter. He soon followed suit.
Then, while still a child himself, he committed his first killing.
He pushed a school friend who he knew was unable to swim off a log raft. When a second boy attempted to save the drowning youngster, Kürten held his head under the water so that both boys drowned. Both deaths were ruled by authorities as being accidental.
There was no dramatic turning point, no sudden loss of innocence. For Peter Kürten, violence wasn't a break from normal life. It was normal life. As he grew older, his behavior escalated. He became a petty criminal: theft, arson, assault. He cycled in and out of reform schools and prisons. Authorities believed incarceration would correct him. Instead, it gave him time. Time alone. Time to think. Time for his fantasies to evolve. By his early 30s, Peter Kürten had committed his first confirmed adult murder during a burglary.
Christine Klein, a 9-year-old child.
The act didn't frighten him. It clarified something. He later described feeling calm, as if something inside him had finally aligned.
I traveled to the child's grave many times just to handle the soil.
More petty crimes and prison followed again.
But prison didn't erase his urges, it refined them.
When Kürten was released,
something terrifying happened. He blended in. He moved to Düsseldorf. He found work. He met a woman named Auguste. They married. To neighbors, Peter Kürten was quiet but polite, hard-working, unremarkable. No one suspected that behind closed doors, his violent impulses were growing stronger. By 1929, they could no longer be contained. That year, Düsseldorf began to change. People were attacked at random. Men, women, children. Some were stabbed, some were beaten, some were strangled.
I derived an extreme sense of gratification from the general disgust, repulsion, and outrage I overheard in the conversations about my activities.
The attacks weren't frantic, they weren't emotional, they were deliberate. Peter Kürten wasn't killing out of anger. He wasn't lashing out. He was experimenting. He later admitted that he was fascinated by the moment life left the body, by the sounds, by the stillness. In some attacks, he attempted to drink his victim's blood. The press seized on the details, and soon, a name spread across Germany: the Vampire of Düsseldorf.
Fear gripped the city. Parents pulled children indoors before sunset. People avoided parks, riverbanks, empty streets. Police worked relentlessly, but there was no clear pattern. The victims were too different. The methods varied. It felt random, and that was exactly how Kürten wanted it. He followed the investigation closely. He read the newspapers. He listened to rumors. He enjoyed the confusion. But serial killers aren't caught because they stop. They're caught because they make mistakes. One of Kürten's victims survived an attack and later wrote a detailed letter describing her assailant. She mailed it. The letter ended up in police hands, and suddenly, details aligned. Timing, locations, behaviors. For the first time, the chaos formed a shape. Peter Kürten was soon identified as a suspect.
Peter Kürten?
When police approached him, he didn't flee, he didn't panic. He cooperated, and when confronted with evidence, he confessed. Not emotionally, not defensively, methodically. He admitted to dozens of attacks and murders. He explained them calmly, as if recounting a routine. Psychiatrists examined him extensively. They searched for insanity. They didn't find it. Peter Kürten understood right from wrong. He understood the consequences of his actions. He simply didn't care. At trial, the courtroom listened in stunned silence as his crimes were detailed. There were no outbursts, no remorse. When asked if he felt guilt, Kürten reportedly said,
"I feel understood."
In 1931, he was sentenced to death. Peter Kürten was executed by guillotine. Witnesses noted his composure to the end. His final question wasn't about forgiveness. It wasn't about redemption.
Tell me, after my head is chopped off, will I still be able to hear, at least for a moment, the sound of my own blood gushing from the stump of my neck? That would be the pleasure to end all pleasures.
Even then, he was curious. Peter Kürten wasn't a myth. He wasn't a monster, hiding under a bed or lurking in the dark. He was a husband, a worker, a neighbor, a murderer, and the first studied sexual serial killer. If you dare to meet Peter Kürten face to face, just travel to Wisconsin's Ripley's, believe it or not. After his execution, he was opened in the search for answers. None was found. What remained was not an explanation, but the quiet, unsettling truth that there was nothing there that wasn't human.